What's a company secret you can share now that you don't work there? They are out of business now, but in the early 90s I worked at Radio Shack for a year and a half. When people would return an item because it didn't work, the manager of the store would just box it back up and sell it again as if it were new. When I asked him about it, he said, "Hopefully they will return it to a different store." I nearly got fired when I refused to sell a guy a walkie-talkie CB radio that I knew didn't work. The guy was on his way out for a hunting trip and was buying 3 of these for him and his friends. We had 2 and the third was the broken one. In front of the customer, I told the manager that one didn't work and I had tested it. The guy was happy. I told him, we arranged for him to get the last one he needed at a different store, and off he went. The manager was livid with me and nearly fired me. "I'm sorry, I'm not sending people out into the forest with gear I know doesn't work." Hilariously, a few months later the manager was caught stealing from the store and got fired. *Edit, well, I didn't expect this to blow up like this. It's pretty funny. My highest upvoted comment is about my shitty past job. Inbound call center. Though we are currently experiencing an unusually high call volume, message is permanent. They just didn't staff adequately. I worked as a dog groomer for a summer. We gave your dog a treat even if they weren't good. Worked in insurance. Hundreds of people have access to your SSN with no security clearance or background check. Worked at a major cable/ISP and their 4 billing cycles. They upgraded the billing system, but did something wrong, and all but the current cycle got a late charge. But instead of fixing it immediately, we were told to credit their account if the customer called in. I did the math, and for the size of our city, and the 3/4 of people wrongly charged, it was over $1 million USD. Most people just pay their bill and don't look to close. Edit, it was Time Warner, which was bought out a couple times in my area. Arby's manager replaced the expiration stickers on the bread with new ones. I guess so the bread would last longer that way. I threw out 100 plus pitas with green fuzz on them after checking the manager's work. The difference between the high-quality deli meat sold at M&S and the regular deli meat sold in other grocery stores is that we changed the label. We would literally stop the production line, wait for the guy who ran the label machine to swap them out and then start it back up again. Olive Garden breadsticks are just Franz brand breadsticks, garlic salt and butter etc. It's margarine, not butter. I forgot there is a difference. The secret ingredient of Jimmy John's tuna salad is soy sauce. Edit, Kikkoman soy sauce specifically. And yes, fuck the owner for what he does to animals. I worked for a restoration company. One time an elderly woman called them to clean her house. She was a hoarder or there had been a fire. I can't remember. Anyway, the company charged $57,000 for the work to be done, but in actuality they couldn't even get the charges to add up to $20,000. She couldn't file this on her insurance. There are other examples of gross overcharging, but this is the worst I know of that wasn't on the large loss side. The lesson here: if you have water, fire, mold, or hoarder damage and call in a company to clean it up, go through every line item on the invoice. Every single one. I worked for a large construction company and the sales guys would intentionally omit items from contracts because they received incentives for what would then become a change order. Me, you forgot to include any framing in this contract, sales weasel. Oh, I guess it's a change order then. * Customer cries. Government-funded refugee advocacy agencies at a time were approving a disproportionate amount of young women, 18 to 25, from Syria and Iraq with sexual assault history for their services. Upon further investigation, I and my team discovered consultants from said agency were engaging in sexual relationships with these girls, they were denying them opportunities of employment to keep them in financial destitution purposely. When the girls became desperate, the offer of private prostitution was made by the consultants. I whistle blew to the organization heads. They thanked me and the consultants were gone the next day. Huge meeting with senior board, apologies, this isn't the way we do things. Speeches blah blah blah. And within 3 months me and the other 6 other complainants and investigators had all resigned from the company for different reasons. On paper it looks coincidental, in reality we were all individually pushed out. 2 of the consultants that we uncovered were doing the worst were not fired, they were given the option to resign and are currently working at other agencies with vulnerable young women. Hotels do not typically have security, maintenance, or housekeeping on staff 24/7. Once housekeeping finishes cleaning all the rooms, the entire staff leaves except for one front desk employee. I used to work for a company that rhymes with Musbeat, and we used to have somebody post this question every few months for material for one of our clickbait articles. Used to work at a graphic design firm. All our Adobe software was pirated. I used to work surveillance at a casino. From something like 3 stories high ceiling, we could zoom in on money on the table games and read the serial numbers of the bills. We could see the pips on the dice. Policy was to not look down blouses. Maple sap can be trucked in from other states, and where it's turned from sap to syrup decides on the state it comes from, not the location of the trees. If you don't hear music when you're supposedly on hold, the operator simply muted their mic and can still hear you. I've heard interesting and damning things while they thought I couldn't hear them. This is true. My wife is a saint to people in the service industry and has received so many random upgrades at hotels and gigs because she's just nice to people. Went to a concert at a hockey arena. Tickets were for upper bowl. Got to our seats, not quite the nosebleeds but not great. Other sections were relatively empty just before the opener. Asked at the box office if we could buy better tickets. Box office hands us new tickets from a sizable stack on the counter, lower bowl, stage right, no questions asked, no additional money exchanged. Fantastic experiences made even better by the venue.